Okay, so my name is Brian Olinyich, and I'm not an immunologist or a virologist or anything like that. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a researcher or a scientist or anything like that. Um, I am a charismatic Christian, and I have been discussing the coronavirus vaccine with my friends who are mostly charismatic Christians who are a part of the anti-vaxxer movement. And so I just wanted to make a video explaining my views of the coronavirus vaccine, starting with my own relationship with God and what God has spoken to me about the virus from the beginning of the outbreak in January of 2020. And then based on, I'm not a scientist, I have a university education from UNC Chapel Hill. I didn't study a science discipline, I studied linguistics. I just took AP biology in high school and AP psychology, where I learned about clinical testing and trials, and I took statistics, also AP statistics in high school and statistics in college, so I understand statistics. And what I've been noticing in my conversations with my friends is that they just don't have the background knowledge that I just assumed that everyone had about how the body works and how it deals with um, sickness and and viruses and vaccines. And I'm not an expert, but I just have some background knowledge. And I thought that maybe if I made like a video, because I'm a charismatic Christian and I've got my Bible and I like read it every day. I like believe in Jesus and I try to follow the Holy Spirit as closely as I can. Um, that maybe some of you guys listen to what I feel like the Holy Spirit is saying about this vaccine. So let me just start with my personal history just to establish myself as a Christian. So basically, I actually grew up Catholic. I didn't grow up as a Protestant at all. But when I mean, there's lots of Catholics that follow Jesus, so I shouldn't degrade all Catholics. I just know that for me, I learned basically nothing about Jesus in the Catholic Church. And when I got to college, long story short, I was really suicidal and I cried out to the name of Jesus. I called upon Jesus, and the next day, some people stopped me in the cafeteria. It's a long story. I could tell you my whole testimony another time, but I ended up praying to God that day that He would make me into a man of God with three spirit filled Christians. And I started going to their ministry and I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. And someone laid hands on my head like a year later. I think it may have been 2 years later, and I received the gift of prophecy. I started having visions. God started speaking to me. Um, I struggle with some other things, mental illness and some other things. So, people that know me might be like, oh, this guy's crazy. So, you're free to draw your own conclusions about, whatever you think of me. But I have been seeing visions and having dreams, encounters with Jesus, and I had a couple dreams about heaven. I had a vision where was in heaven after praying for about a year that God would show me what heaven was like, and He showed me in a vision that lasted about 45 minutes, and I ended it prematurely because I went to work and then I found out that work was canceled. God has spoken to me a lot. I've also gotten a lot of prophetic words that were not true, that didn't happen. But I will say, I did not predict. I mean, I actually thought Donald Trump was going to win, but I wasn't very excited about it because I felt like that man's character was just not representative of Christ. So you can go ahead and turn off this video if that's going to offend you, but I feel like for me, a Christian is someone who honors God with the way that they talk, the way that they treat women, whether or not they lie all the time, um, how many marriages they've had, stuff like that. So if you love Donald Trump, I'm sorry for offending you. He wasn't my favorite guy. I'm also not a big Biden fan or a Kamala Harris fan. I feel like she's probably pulling some strings behind the scenes. I'm really not that interested in political debates because I think basically all politicians are a bunch of corrupt narcissists. So I'm not here to advocate for Democrat Party or the Republican Party. I just feel like science gets a really bad rap among charismatic Christians. And so I just wanted to like take some time and just defend at least my opinion of the scientific community's like approach and hard work and risking their lives to save us and save the whole world from this frickin' virus, which destroyed the whole world's economies are just on fire. It's just such a disaster. So so let me just start. And so if I've offended everyone, and you're no longer watching, I'll just talk to myself for the rest of the video. So basically, let me tell you about my introduction to this virus. So it actually started in early 2020 or maybe late 2019. The Lord highlighted the outbreak in Wuhan, China to me. It was in the news and people were talking about it, and I felt a strong unction from the Lord, from the Holy Spirit, to pray against this virus. And so I decided to get down on my knees every night while it was still in China beside my bed and ask God to cure the coronavirus so that it wouldn't infect everybody. And I was asking all my Christian friends to pray, and nobody wanted to pray. So frustrated. Um, God was like sounding the alarm in my life. He was like, "This is really serious." So I was praying just with anybody that would pray for me, pray with me for this virus, and mostly the only person that prayed with me was my mom. So we prayed a couple of times, and then of course the virus hit America, and it just slowly took off. I mean, everybody blamed Donald Trump for the virus and how it spread, but it's everywhere. There's no way it could have been stopped. It doesn't matter. You can't blame any politicians. It's just everywhere. There's no way it could have been stopped. Those early days, everyone was really mad. They thought they could contain it, and it just wasn't going to happen. I'm just certain that no leader can be held responsible for this virus anywhere in the world. That's my personal opinion. I do not believe that it was manufactured in a lab in China, but that's irrelevant because the virus is here and scientists have completely picked apart everything that has to do with this virus. They know everything about it that there is to know about the structure of the virus. Now, whether or not they understand the COVID disease that actually breaks down your body and can kill you, that disease it seems like it's getting more complicated all the time. People are learning more and more bad news about that disease all the time. But I just want to address a couple of things that the Lord spoke to me. So the first thing that happened was when the virus hit America, God woke me up and was like, "You need to go get ready for this impending disaster." And so I actually went and got a whole bunch of food and stuff that I still haven't eaten. But I did get some alcohol and some gloves and stuff, and I used those a lot. I actually ordered some spray bottles online, which I still use. I spray alcohol on things. And I went into the drugstore and got a whole bunch of vitamin C and all this stuff, and people just weren't like buying any of this stuff. And I felt bad because I was like, eventually everyone's going to want this stuff, and I'm getting like the last thing of vitamin C or whatever. I didn't get all of it. I didn't want to be that guy that gets all of it. I didn't buy any masks. The CDC was telling us they don't work. And let me tell you what the Lord told me about masks. First of all, I was driving around buying all this stuff because I thought all the grocery stores were going to be closed because I was watching video footage from China and stuff where the grocery stores. There was lots of false information coming out from Taiwan about China at that time. It was very confusing. I was also keeping my eye on Iran. And there was some really bad stuff happening in Iran at that time, and I think we still don't know the extent of the damage to Iran that this virus has wreaked on Iran. But anyway, so I was driving around buying all this stuff, just expecting everything to just shut down. I'm sure everybody did, like in the next week, but God told me to go a week before, so maybe that gives me some credibility or something. So whether or not I needed the food, but and maybe we still will need it. I mean, with the political situation the way it is now. So not taking sides, by the way. I really don't have a horse in this race. I just want to serve Jesus and see His name glorified all over the earth, and I want to see as few people as possible get sick with this virus, and I just want it to end, and I want us to be able to go out and preach the gospel and hang out with people and go to church. So that's really my passion. So anyway, let me tell you about this. So what happened? I was driving around and I start getting these messages from this Chinese girl because I'm a polyglot. So if you ever know anything about polyglots are kind of these guys that just speak a couple of languages. That people argue about the definition of a polyglot and whether you're really one or not. I'm just a guy that studied like a bunch of languages. I speak some of them kind of well, like Spanish and Portuguese. I speak French less well, German even less well, and I've studied like a bunch of other ones that I speak less well, like Arabic and Farsi and stuff. But and Chinese, I was studying Chinese at that time. I've always tried to use these languages. Sometimes I was trying to use them to meet babes, but other times I was trying to preach the gospel, just depending upon whether or not I was serving the Lord at the time. So at that particular time, I really was trying to serve the Lord, and so I've been really trying to serve God consistently. I gave my life to Christ in 2004, and then I kind of walked away. I got frustrated with God and abandoned Him in 2013, 2012, 2013, and I came back to Him in 2017, and I've been trying to just chase after Him as hard as I can ever since. So this was in 2020, and I got this message from this Chinese girl, and I didn't know who she was, and she sent me like 5 messages. No one's ever done that. It was really strange. In my life, I've been on this particular website to meet pen pals to practice languages since I was 19. It's how I learned Portuguese and French on this website, making friends and stuff. Nobody's ever sent me 5 messages. So this was the day I was driving around picking up food and stuff for the end of the world. This Chinese girl keeps messaging me, so I just messaged her back. I wasn't even that serious about Chinese. So I don't even know if I said that I was studying Chinese on my profile. I might have had Chinese on there at the time because I have flirted with Chinese sometimes. But we get into this conversation, and I just messaged her back. I was like, okay, I guess this is from the Lord. So I like messaged her, and she's like, gets into this conversation with me. I guess she was living in Boston at the time. She was a Chinese immigrant. She was a student, and she was like, why are you guys not wearing masks? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, masks, listen, if you're sick, you don't spread the disease. If you're not sick, you don't get it. And if both people are wearing them, it travels even less. It just made perfect sense to me. I was like, oh, that does make sense, doesn't it? So I started like praying about masks at that time. And the CDC came out and said, masks don't work. And I felt like the Lord had told me, yes, they do. And I was watching a show, and there was a scene in this show where it was like a justice show with this sheriff guy, and he goes in and busts up this meth lab in the show, and they're all wearing these masks. And the Lord showed me, see that everyone's going to be wearing masks. That's what it's going to look like. He showed me this in either late February or early March, the very beginning of the pandemic when no one was wearing masks. And I remember going into the drugstore and seeing the first guy wearing a mask, and I was like, here we go. It felt so strange. That guy was already on point wearing masks, but the CDC was like, they don't work. And I was like, yes, they do. And I made a lot of my medical professional friends really mad because I was encouraging people to wear them. And at that time, there weren't enough for the medical professionals. I didn't like that people were stealing them from medical professionals. That made me really upset. I thought, where is people's honor? Why won't they just care that doctors and nurses need these more than the average person? I thought that was really cruel that people were stealing them from hospitals, but I knew that they worked. So I started praying and crying out to God just in the middle of the night, just fasting and asking God to help America to make masks as fast as possible. Um, I started emailing prayer ministries, basically just IHOP, and asking them to pray for masks. And a girl went up to Mike Bickle in the middle of his briefing about the virus and asked him why they weren't wearing masks. And the Lord was really highlighting masks to me. So there's been a couple of things about this epidemic that I got right. Not I got right. Obviously, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and told me in advance. I just want you to know that I've gotten some other stuff wrong. For example, I thought that there was going to be a big civil war this winter, and we're not out of the woods yet politically. But I definitely kept my rice and beans just in case. But I've gotten prophetic words wrong before, so I consider myself kind of this prophetic guy that's gotten a bunch of stuff wrong and has gotten some stuff right. So with that in mind, I think you can kind of tell like how serious I am about Jesus and whether or not you want to trust anything that I have to say. So let me just start talking about this virus. So okay, So I want to give you just a background in microbiology, just how the human body works. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm not an expert and I'm not a microbiologist. I'm not in the medical field. As I said, I'm not a scientist. I'm a linguist. I'm not even a PhD or a master's degree linguist. I'm just an amateur guy that speaks a bunch of languages and tries to preach the gospel to people. But the point, I've actually probably studied the Bible way more than anything else. But the point is, I just want to talk about like in church history and theology and stuff. I just love that stuff, but I'm so super ignorant about almost everything that I talk about. So just feel free to just turn this off whenever you want. But this is my spiel about this. So I hope you'll listen. I really hope you'll listen to what I have to say because I think it could save your life. Okay, so I want to talk first of all about DNA versus RNA. Okay, so a lot of people don't know what the difference is between these two kinds of genetic code. Everyone knows that DNA is the genetic code inside your cells. Listen, I'm not an artist and I don't want to get in trouble for using other people's graphics. So I just sort of wrote some stuff down on some paper. This video isn't going to look very good. It's just the best that I mean I could do just on the fly. So I just did this today. So we'll just see how many views this gets, or if I get in trouble like with my community for saying this stuff. The point is that your DNA, right, is inside every cell. So let me just skip ahead to my so let me see if I can zoom into my little drawing that I made, which is just not very good. So I tried to draw a little picture of DNA. Okay, this is supposed to be a human cell. So it's cells are some of the most complicated things you could ever imagine. I mean, and people that believe that cells evolved, that's the most ridiculous idea that I've ever heard. Even Richard Dawkins, who is an atheist, who argues that religion is ridiculous, he has no idea how cells evolve. Now he believes in macroevolution, that things changed over time over millions of years, but really no one has any idea how cells were created except that they were created by God. And Richard Dawkins won't say that because he's an atheist and he's making his money selling his books about that. So he says that they were brought here by aliens. Cells are so complicated. So I'm really just going to just tell you like one or two things about a cell, and a cell has been likened to like a jet engine, or like a jet, like an airplane with a bunch of computers on board. It's one of the most sophisticated things you could ever study. I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about cells so that you can understand the difference between DNA and RNA, and we'll come back to this in a minute. So the point is that, okay, so this is just a picture of a cell. It's just got cells have all kinds of different shapes. There's plant cells, there's animal cells, there's bacteria cells. This is just a basic cell. And I don't even know enough about cells to tell you if everything that is in this, it's very basic drawing, is in every kind of cell. But this is definitely stuff in a human cell. I've done some background research on this stuff recently to make sure that the stuff that I'm saying is true. And anyone who finds a mistake in my video, feel free to comment and point out my mistake. The point is, and your conspiracy theory that you think I'm wrong about, too, feel free to comment your conspiracy theories too. So, okay. So moving on, right along. So this is the nucleus of the cell, okay? So a nucleus, so first let's talk about these little outlines, okay? This is not what a cell looks like. A cell actually looks like a bubble, okay? It doesn't look like a square. And the outer cell of the bubble is this material. I can't remember what it's made out of, but you can't just get across it, okay? It's like a wall, but it has some doors, and I didn't draw the doors, but the doors are these little chemicals. They're not really chemicals, they're proteins, and proteins are like these structures. Like almost everything in your body is made out of protein. Protein is like a. It's like if you have Legos and you just can build anything out of Legos. That's like a protein. You can make anything out of proteins. I think almost all of your tissues are made out of proteins. I don't know what bones are made out of. So you can tell the lack of my knowledge. But let's just so there's proteins that are doors that are along this is called the cell membrane, and this is the wall of the cell wall. And if you want to get into the cell, you've got to go through a door. And the coronavirus actually goes through a certain door into the cell, and that's how it gets in, and it uses its spike proteins, which is a big topic of this whole video, to get into the cell. But if you see here, so there's this cell membrane, and you just can't go in there if you want to. You have to get permission to enter the cell because it's going to kick you out using this cell wall. And look at this. See this little circle here? This is the nuclear membrane. This surrounds your DNA. So this is another membrane. It's just like this. A membrane is just like a balloon like substance that you just it's sort of, you know, you can, it's like a balloon. You push it like that and it's got air inside, and it's very thin. That's a membrane. So this is a membrane here, not related to your brain and your head. It's like this very thin material, and it's not a circle. It's like a globe. It's like a little balloon, and it keeps stuff from getting to your DNA for obvious reasons, because your DNA is the most important stuff in your body. Now, I don't agree with cloning. I think that's taking things into God's hands. That's just too much. But if you wanted to clone a person, you can clone anything, a sheep or whatever. All you need is one cell's DNA. And because it encodes, every cell in your body has the DNA for your entire body in it. And the DNA for your body is in this part of the cell called the nucleus. I guess I should have labeled this. This is the nucleus of the cell, okay? So this part here where the DNA is. And there's all kinds of things that go on to get stuff out, in and out of the nuclear membrane, but we're not going to talk very much about the nuclear membrane or DNA today. I just wanted you to know that the DNA in your cell is basically sealed off from the rest of the cell by this wall, and it also has proteins and stuff. I mean, you could correct me, but I'm pretty sure it works similarly to this. You really have to get permission to go into the nucleus to touch the DNA. They're not just going to let you go in there. Your cell has security systems. They will not let you into this DNA cell part. This is called the nucleus. You can't just get in there. So the basic point is that RNA, there is RNA that travels in and out of here, but this vaccine, so I'm talking about the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. I don't know if Johnson & Johnson is an mRNA vaccine. I can't remember, but any mRNA vaccine for the coronavirus, it does not ever go into your nuclear membrane. It never messes with your DNA. So that's the first point that I want to make about this virus. Not the virus, the vaccine, is that it just doesn't mess with your DNA ever. So there is technology that people have created called CRISPR where they can go in and manipulate your DNA. This vaccine doesn't have anything like that in there. The only thing that this vaccine has is a couple of liquid things in it, and it's got these. Let me see if I can skip ahead. Oh, I have to zoom out to skip to the next picture. So, okay, I'm learning how to use this. So let's see how viruses work. This is just a little picture of the vaccine. I don't know if you can see this. This is supposed to be a syringe, and it's just got these little bubbles that have the RNA in it for the vaccine. So let's just talk about what RNA is, okay? So RNA is different from DNA. DNA encodes the genetic information for your entire body, okay? And there's viruses and bacteria that have DNA too, and it just includes all the material for their stuff. The coronavirus actually doesn't have DNA in it; it just has RNA, and so the RNA encodes for the virus, and I'll talk about how that works in a bit. But so if you look right here, I just have one thing that cells do out of the billion things that they do, however many things that cells do. This is just supposed to be a little strand of RNA. RNA's code, I'm not going to explain it because I don't have enough time, but it's just basically these molecules that are stuck together in a line, and they're like code, like computer code. So think about how computer code, like it's got, maybe you don't know anything about computers, but zeros and ones and stuff, and maybe you saw the movie The Matrix and you saw the zeros and ones. So RNA is kind of like that, except it's kind of in this string. So what happens with messenger RNA, which is a special kind of RNA, so it's not DNA, this is RNA. What RNA does is it creates proteins. Okay, so it doesn't actually create them, it's just the code for a protein. It's like a manual for how to create a protein. And there are these little factories inside of your cell called ribosomes that read the mRNA, and they create whatever protein structure the RNA codes for. So this is just a picture of like a piece of mRNA that's got a ribosome attached to it, and it's creating some kind of protein. And this protein may or may not be able to go into nuclear membrane, depending on what kind of protein it is. Everything in your cell is a type of protein, I think, except for the membrane itself. It's some kind of like fatty thing. Oh, there's fats and stuff. Those are not proteins. So you can see there's some holes in my knowledge. The point is that proteins are really important, and lots of stuff in your body is made out of them. So the point is that, yeah, so this protein could be anything in the cell. It's just a picture of something that the cell is making using this ribosome and this mRNA. So let's go back to DNA versus RNA. Okay, so DNA, what is DNA? It encodes all of the genetic code for your entire body inside of your cells, and it's protected inside the nucleus of the cell, so you can't just get in there without permission or cutting open the nucleus or something, which this vaccine does not do. The second thing, let's talk about mRNA. There's other kinds of RNA. Let's not talk about those because it's not important to this topic. So mRNA is the genetic code that makes a single protein. So it's the code for a protein. A protein is just a structure that your body can use to do stuff. Your cells are made out of protein, etc. mRNA is not allowed to exist outside a cell. It can get out there, but as soon as it gets out there, it's going to be destroyed immediately. So mRNA is completely useless if it's outside the cell. And that's actually the reason why, if you look at the vaccine, it's got to be coated in these little bubbles, these lipid bubbles. Lipid means fat. I think they're in petroleum, some kind of petroleum thing, just some kind of fatty, like oily thing. It's like a little bubble, and people are like, nanoparticles, do you mean nanobots? No, they're called nanoparticles because they're really small and they're particles. They're just little bubbles with RNA inside of them. That's all the vaccine really is. um, so um, if the RNA is not encased in a little balloon, in a little bubble, it's just going to get eaten up by our body's immune system. So let me take a minute and talk about the immune system, okay? Your immune system is the part of your body that fights sicknesses. So most people know that. The immune system is the bomb. It is so powerful, and it's just got so many parts, and it just knows how to just defeat stuff. Your immune system is constantly destroying bacteria and stuff that's not supposed to be in your body every day, all day long. It's just eliminating viruses and stuff that you don't even know about, and you just don't get sick because those particular viruses are not strong enough to defeat your immune system in any way, shape, or form. So when you get a really serious virus like the coronavirus, it's because that thing, um, it's got some special characteristics that I don't even know about, but somehow it gets past your immune system and it just starts to infect stuff really, really fast, and your immune system can't defeat it. So let's see. Let's talk about mRNA. Okay, so your immune system can destroy mRNA as soon as there's lots of parts to the immune system, but it just destroys any RNA that gets outside of your cells immediately. So that's why the vaccine has it coated in those little bubbles. So mRNA is just code. It needs the cell's protein factories to make the protein. Those are called ribosomes. Because let's go to the next little picture. I just want to show you, this is a really bad drawing of the coronavirus. Everyone has seen the coronavirus on the news. It's just a membrane, okay, that protects the insides of this stinking virus, and then it's got these spike proteins that are around. I don't even know. They don't look like this. This is just my little spikes that I drew, and they probably have way less than this. I don't even know. I just drew this really fast. If you look at this inside the virus, this is the most important part of the virus, besides the spike proteins, because the spike proteins allow the virus. Remember, you're not allowed to get inside the cell without permission. The spike proteins are these spies that tell your cell to let the virus in, and the cell listens every time. It really sucks. And then the virus comes in, and it's got this mRNA, which is used to create proteins. Now, let's talk about the coronavirus RNA. It's called a genome. Okay, a genome is basically just code to create stuff. Okay, the genome for the coronavirus, it's the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus, which is the particular virus we're dealing with COVID-19. This genome codes for the entire coronavirus. Okay, so that includes the code for the spike proteins, the code for the membrane, the code for whatever else is inside this virus, and it codes for like little factories that it builds itself to make itself. So it's got all kinds of stuff in this genome, besides the code for these spike particles, which is the most important part of the vaccine. So let's talk about how we've gone over human cells. So inside we have DNA, we have mRNA, which is making a protein. through a ribosome. We've looked at that before. And now let's talk about how viruses work. So basically, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. So here's how viruses work. Okay, viruses are not actually alive. Did you know that? There's a definition of life that life comes from life. So cells, they can reproduce themselves. They reproduce their own DNA and they can form another cell that's just like itself. Viruses can't do that. Viruses are not able to reproduce themselves. They have to hijack your body's cells to reproduce themselves. So here's what happens. This coronavirus is gotten into your body, breathed it in, got it in your eyes or your nose or your mouth, and it's gone into your respiratory tract, your throat and your lungs, and it's encountered some cell. This spike, the spy part of the virus, interacts with one of these doors in your cell and makes a little handshake with the cell and does the secret handshake to enter in the club. And the cell says, "Oh, okay, I'll let you in." And that's when all this mess starts. So the coronavirus comes into your cell and then it starts to do its damage. So the coronavirus, it's just a virus, it's just this piece of code that knows how to make itself. I think viruses were created by the devil. I'm certain. I have no idea how this stuff got created. There's no way God created it. I just can't believe it. And here's what happens. You can just hate these things. They come inside your cell and they remove their code, whatever it is. It could be DNA or RNA. The coronavirus is RNA. So don't worry about DNA viruses. I'm not going to talk about them at all. Some DNA viruses can get inside your DNA. I think the chickenpox can do that, and that's how you get shingles. I don't remember, though. Don't quote me on that. But coronaviruses never, ever interact with your DNA inside your nucleus. Never. So here's what happens. The mRNA gets released into your cell somehow. Don't ask me to explain it because I'm not a biologist. But what happens is it goes. So I drew these little pieces of the genome. Okay, remember this is the whole code for the entire virus. So I just wanted to show you that it gets cut up into these little pieces because I wanted you to know there's lots of things that this genome encodes. Okay, so it doesn't just encode the spike proteins. It encodes, like I said, the membrane. It encodes the genome, how to make it, copy the genome itself, and it encodes all these machines that it builds out of protein to zip itself back up and make itself into a virus again after it's been created in all these, in like a bunch of factories are working on different parts of the virus, and then there's a factory that assembles it all. And so that's what happens. You see these ribosomes and they're making different parts of the virus. So if you look at this, so this ribosome, this is supposed to be a little piece of mRNA. It's creating spike proteins. So this is how viruses work, okay? They take over your cells. They start to use up everything in your cells to make itself. And they just use all the material in your cells to make themselves. And then after they're done, there's so many inside your cell that your cell explodes and it releases the virus everywhere and into other cells. And the viruses suck. But your immune system handles them all the time. I just hated studying. I studied viruses, not extremely deeply like an expert. I just got really interested in them when I was in high school, and I was studying Ebola and some other viruses, HIV and stuff like that. And the viruses, they're just so despicable that they take over your cells and use your whole cell to create itself and then kill the cell and release itself and burst, and all the viruses go out everywhere. So that's basically what happens. It sort of assembles itself and then it explodes, and because the cell just can't hold it anymore, and all these viruses that it's made out of your cell material explode and go everywhere, and they get all over other cells. And then it repeats itself, right? So then this guy meets another cell, and the spike protein does the secret handshake on your cell membrane, goes inside that cell, and does this again, and it infects millions and millions of cells. So it just does that. And it spreads, it can spread all kinds of places in your body. The coronavirus can just get everywhere in your body. It's just such a miserable virus. So anyway, let's talk about the immune system, okay? So, and then we're going to get to vaccines. So this is just some basics about the immune system. It's got all kinds of different parts to it. But whenever you get anything inside of your body that starts to manufacture itself, like and just replicate a lot, like a bacteria which can replicate itself, or a virus which should take over your cells to do it, your body recognizes, hey, something's going on. What's going on here? And the immune system starts to check it out, and then it says, hey, we're under attack. we need to go ahead and declare war on this thing that's trying to take over our body. And so that's when you start to feel bad, because when you are mounting an immune response, you get a fever, stuff like that. Your body kicks itself into war mode to try to kill this stuff inside your body. And I think that's actually how you die of SARS-CoV-2, of COVID, is because the immune response is so severe that it actually kills you. But and that's common, I think, among like the flu as well. So I don't have any comment on how to deal with that. And medical professionals know all about that. I know nothing about that. But here's how your body fights any virus. The immune system realizes it's being attacked. Some cells in the immune system catch the virus and rip them up and look at them and analyze them and figure out how to fight it. And then they create these weapons called antibodies. Antibodies are just these little things. They're these markers. But look what they do. They surround and attach to the spikes on the coronavirus, and it's useless. It can't get inside your cells. And the other thing is they've got these little tags, and they say search and destroy. If you see me, kill me. And they're these killer cells that go around and kill everything that has one of these antibodies on it. So it's rendered useless because the spikes can't get, if you can't do the secret handshake, you can't get into the cell. So it's useless and it's tagged for destruction, and so that's what antibodies do. So your body just starts churning out antibodies as fast as it can to mark whatever it is so that your cells can kill the thing that's trying to take over your body. Let's see. So, and then here's a really important part of your immune response. Once the virus has been neutralized, meaning surrounded by these antibodies so it can't do any more damage, and then destroyed by the immune system, it does get just ripped up, and then you just poop it out basically, and all the material it's just digested, and it's just nothing, and you just poop it out. The code for the antibodies, so this is actually coded too by mRNA, and I don't know what you code antibodies with, but the memory for how to make these antibodies is stored inside your immune system, so that you can, if this thing comes back, those antibodies are there, and if your immune system is triggered by a coronavirus particle or coronavirus, then your body will say, hey, I remember you, and it'll be like, hey, produce antibodies again, coronavirus is back, we're going to go after it, and these antibodies will come back. The thing is about antibodies is they don't last forever. So like your body just eventually just forgets how to make them. I don't know if it forgets, it just decides that it's not important to really be able to make a lot really ready. Remember when America couldn't make masks because we didn't have any factories? That's how some of this antibody production is that you just can't make enough because your body doesn't think it's important, and that's why you have to get 2 doses of the vaccine. So let's talk about how the vaccine works, okay? Because it's trying to create memory for these antibodies that lasts a long time. So here's what happens, okay? Let's talk about how the vaccine works. So the first thing that happens is that you get this injection, and it's got these little bubbles, and it's got mRNA in it. Okay, let's talk about this mRNA. The mRNA in the bubbles only codes for the spike proteins. That's it. It does not code for the virus. So here's what that means. It means that this mRNA is not capable of creating more of itself. It's not capable of creating the entire coronavirus. It's not capable of creating anything that could spread more of this mRNA stuff to any other cells. So what does that mean? That means that the number of mRNA pieces of code that is in the vaccine, that in the needle, that is the only mRNA that will ever come into your body. Okay, your cells will never produce any more of this mRNA. It's going to get broken down and destroyed, but not before it does a little damage to your body on purpose. And here's what happens. So it's got to be surrounded in these little bubbles so that your immune system doesn't just destroy it and eat it up immediately. And then it does have the ability to get into your cells, and just like a virus, it hijacks your cells, just like a virus. So what cells does it hijack? It's going to hijack some ones in your arm, but remember, a virus creates more of itself, so it can just keep spreading and spreading and spreading. Let's say, I don't know how many mRNA particles that are in a vaccine dose. I mean, I'd like to ask a manufacturer, let's say 1 billion, 1 million, I don't know, 100,000, who knows? I mean, I don't know how many cells are in one, like this area. I don't know how big they are. Let's just say, I'm sure it's less than 1 billion. I'm sure it's like a couple thousand. I don't know. Just don't quote me on any of this stuff. The point is, you've got trillions and trillions of cells inside your body. Okay? The number of mRNA particles that are injected into your body is minimal compared to actual coronavirus infection of your body, which just takes over and just puts coronavirus everywhere, all over your body. This is just a couple of these little pieces of code. It's going to infect a couple cells. So by a couple, I mean probably a couple thousand of your cells. So I'd like somebody to tell me how many of these pieces of mRNA are actually in each vaccine. But these are the only pieces of mRNA that will ever come into your body through the vaccine. So secondly, so it invades your cells just like a virus, and it makes your own cells sick. And this is where people get really stressed out. Here's what happens, but your body just has so many cells, okay, and it's used to killing. And cells don't last forever anyway. They have a life cycle, and then they are replaced by other ones. I think there are some that are permanent, like nerve cells and stuff. Just depends on the particular type of cell. But this is how the vaccine works, okay? It gets into your arm cells right where it's injected. It takes over your arm muscle cells, and it starts to make these spike proteins, just like a virus. But remember, it's just the spikes. It doesn't make another virus. It's not creating anything that can infect anything else. It's just creating this useless thing. It's the handshake guy. That's it. So this thing, it just fills it up with this, and some of the spikes protrude from the cell. And what happens is your immune system is like, what is going on with this cell? It's got all these spikes all over it, and it's the cell itself is trying to destroy the spikes too. And the mRNA, by the way, doesn't last forever. Okay, I don't know how long it lasts. I saw one guy who was really smart. He was a doctor from Pakistan. He was saying he thinks it lasts for 2 days. I'd like to contact one of the manufacturers of the vaccine, not the virus, the vaccine, to figure out how long the mRNA works. So he said he thought it lasts for 2 days. So for 2 days, it's making all these spikes. And the immune system looks at all these spikes everywhere. It's like, what's going on? And it starts to assess that you've got an infection, which you do. You're infected with the vaccine. So your immune system mounts a response against these spikes. It's like, go and get these. It's like if you had an army, but instead of having an army, you just had like a hat, like the guy's hat that he wears, like an army helmet. And there's all these helmets, and it's like, go to war against these helmets. Those helmets are just laying in a big pile, but your immune system doesn't know that. The helmets can't hurt you. There's too many of them, and it's annoying. But the immune system starts to attack these spikes and process them and figure out how to make antibodies for the spikes, because there are just lots of them being made by these muscle cells. And also, I've heard that these little particles can go into your lymph node and your armpit, so you have some arm pain because your arm muscles are being attacked by your immune system, and your lymph nodes, and it can go into your liver and spleen. I'd like to know how much of damage is done to your liver and spleen by this vaccine and by the immune response. I don't know that. I've heard some negative stuff about what this vaccine can do to your liver. So I want to just tell you one thing about all of this, though. Okay, look. This is just a basic fact about knowledge. Okay, there's something called so there's true and false, right? Where it's right and wrong, good and bad. And then there's the matters of degree, like 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, 10%. I can go on. 89%, 90%, 91%, 92%. And it's which one is it? Okay, that's a matter of degree. What percentage of people that get this virus don't get sick? It's a matter of degree. Okay, a matter of degree means somewhere in between 0 and 100, there's an actual number that matters. And that's what we're talking about. How many cells get infected? Is it all of your cells all over your face and you get spikes sticking in your face? No, it's a couple of them. It's a matter of degree. Compared to the rest of your body, the amount of cells that get infected is minimal. And how much damage does it do to your liver? Some of your liver cells, I read, do get this vaccine infection. How many of them? Your liver's whole process is to filter your body and stuff. So how many? I don't know. It's a matter of degree. So whether it's 2% of your liver or less, I have no idea that's going to get attacked by this, that are going to get infected by these little bubbles. I really doubt that very many get into your liver. Most of them probably just get into your arm, but I'm willing to be corrected. So here's what happens. Your immune system mounts a response to the spike proteins. It creates antibodies, and it stores them in the memory, in your immune system memory. Okay, and because there's an immune response, remember what happens when your immune system kicks in. It says, "Hey, we got to go to war," so you feel a little bit sick. That's why some people feel sick when they get the vaccine, because you are sick. You're sick with these little mRNA things. And so these little spike guys, they're just sitting around in a big pile doing nothing, and then they get tagged with the antibodies, and then your body remembers. It's a little bit stupid. You're tricking your body, and it remembers. Hey, we remember that spike protein invasion. Remember that back in 1974. We've got to get ready for the next one, and so it stores the memory of the antibodies for these spike proteins for a little bit. And then when you get the second shot, your body's like, whoa, this is serious. We really need to remember how to make lots of these antibodies. And that's the whole point. So let's look at how the vaccine works. So this is a picture of the coronavirus. Again, we've already been over this. These antibodies are the actual antibodies that you need to fight the coronavirus. So once you have this mRNA vaccine injection, your body already knows how to just tag this virus and kill it. That's the whole point. It doesn't know how to get rid of the whole virus, and it doesn't understand the rest of the virus. Your body can make antibodies to lots of different parts of this virus, but the vaccine just gives you antibodies for the spikes. So that means, remember what the spike does? It's the handshake guy. The antibodies get all over these spikes, and then the virus can't get in your cells, and then they're tagged by the killer T cells, and they get ripped up and destroyed. And so you don't get sick. You can have the virus, you can breathe it in, and it can get in your cells, and then your immune system's just going to kill it immediately. A lot of times, whether it's 70 or whatever, 80% of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, 90s, upper 90s for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine at the time. And if you do end up getting COVID because of the different strains of the virus, it's going to be much less severe. Somehow these antibodies that are designed for one strain can help you with other ones. And if you do get COVID, it's much less severe. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up just with some basics about the whole point of this video. So let's talk about some concerns about the virus, okay, because I just explained the basics of how it works. Okay, so let's talk about some questions. So number one, how many pieces of mRNA code, remember how many of these little bubbles, how many are there that are injected into your muscles? How many? 1,000, 100,000? I don't know, I'd like to know. So how many cells are going to get sick? Okay, how long does the mRNA produce spike proteins in vaccine-infected cells? A few hours, a few days? I don't know. I'd like to know that. Probably a couple days at most. I really have, but don't quote me on that. I don't know. It's not going to go on forever. Once the body figures out that this mRNA is done doing its job, it just rips it up. Okay, mRNA gets destroyed as soon as it's done. So it runs its program, and then once it's done making as many proteins as it's supposed to, it just gets destroyed by the cell. That's what happens to mRNA. Okay, so it's going to run its program for a couple of days, produce a bunch of spike proteins. Your body's going to try to fight the pile of helmets, and then it's going to make weapons to destroy soldier helmets, and then in an actual war, it's going to know how to take out those helmets, and it's going to be a headshot every time. So, but the point is that how many of your body's own infected cells will be killed by the immune system? So your immune system does kill the cells that are producing these spikes. It does. So that means some of your arm muscles are going to be killed. But remember, you've got trillions of cells inside of your body. How many of them are going to be killed? A couple thousand? I don't know. That's a matter of degree. Is it 200,000? Is it a million? I don't know. And how many cells are in your body? I don't know. But I think, we're talking about like something like 2% or 1% or 0.5 or something percent compared to an actual coronavirus infection. So what damage can spike proteins do to your body's other cells that are not infected by the vaccine? So these spike proteins, they can attach, they're the handshake dudes, so they get attached to your cell membrane and they start trying to get in. And I don't know what that does. This doctor was saying there could be some behavior that the cells deal with, but remember, your immune system is going to go after all of those spike proteins, and it's going to kill any cells that have it on there, and it's going to get rid of all of the spike proteins. So they're going to be completely eliminated. The mRNA is going to be destroyed after it's done running its program. The cells that are infected making spike proteins are going to be killed and replaced. They're going to be replaced by other cells, and then all the spike proteins are going to be cleaned up, the mRNA is going to be destroyed, and there's going to be no trace of this vaccine in your body after however long the immune response takes. The only thing that's going to be left is the memory of how to make the antibodies. That's the only thing left. Okay, and then my other question was, how do immunocompromised people respond to the vaccine? Because one of my friends is she's got an autoimmune disorder. I don't know how that affects the vaccine, because the whole thing is designed to incite an immune response to fight your own body cells, a few of your body cells. So I don't know the answers to those questions. Let's move on. Let's talk about vaccine falsehoods. Okay, briefly. So first of all, we've already discussed whether or not the mRNA in the vaccine can change your DNA. That does not happen because the mRNA does not have any permission in the vaccine. In the vaccine, it does not have permission to get into your nucleus of your cell to touch your DNA. It never touches your DNA. You've already seen, okay, look, this is what's going on. It's making this stuff outside the cell. And yeah, so this is this is the coronavirus. I don't know if the coronavirus can get inside your cell nucleus. It probably rips up everything, but I don't think it messes with your DNA. But anyway, because it just doesn't know how. But if it would, if it could, it's so evil. But the point is that okay, the second point, the mRNA vaccine is part of a holocaust or some kind of global depopulation program to kill all human beings. That is just patently false. There's I don't know how many scientists, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of scientists that have looked at this vaccine and researched a lot of stuff about this virus. I just cannot believe that these people who are trying to save the world are all trying to kill everybody. And with Bill Gates, it just seems ridiculous to me. You can look up how this vaccine works, and you can understand the vaccine. Everything I found out online from YouTube channels, from actual scientists, not from conspiracy theorists. So if you're going to go the conspiracy theory route and you're going to be like, scientists are all liars, we have no idea what's in these vaccines. Are they telling us the truth? It's like, okay, at some point, you're going to believe somebody. So right now you're believing your anti-vaxxer conspiracy people. I'll just tell you a brief story about a video that my friend sent me. I'm going to offend a lot of people. There's some medicine that's so ridiculous that it shouldn't even be called medicine, like homeopathy, where they like take water and they put some bleach in it and they fill the water so much that there's no bleach left in the water, and they say this little tiny bit of bleach, but there isn't any in the water, can cure you of cancer or whatever. It's just ridiculous. And some of these homeopath people are like, let me tell you the truth about this thing. It's got nanobots that are going to connect you to the mark of the beast, and it's all this crap from these people that don't know anything. So let's talk about a vaccine is the mark of the beast of Revelation 13:6. Let me give you my opinion about that. Okay, so the mark of the beast, if you want to know what the mark of the beast is. So I'm a prophet. I've gotten a bunch of words wrong. This is my word about the mark of the beast. Elon Musk right now is working on creating computer chips that can integrate artificial intelligence into your brain. That is the mark of the beast. I saw it on Joe Rogan Experience. He talked about it himself. He said in a couple decades they're going to be able to integrate the internet and artificial intelligence into your brain. That's the mark of the beast, period. End of story. Number 5, the mRNA coronavirus. The corona vaccine creates spikes on your cells forever. No, that's not true. Those spikes, any cell that has the spikes are going to be destroyed by your immune system, and they're going to be replaced by other cells pretty soon, and the spikes are going to be all gobbled up and just destroyed. However long, couple of weeks, they're all going to be gone. Number 6, the vaccine will make you sick with COVID-19. We've already addressed that. That's absolutely not true because the virus is not recreating itself. There's just a little bit of mRNA that's creating the spikes, and once that's all used up, it's all eaten up and destroyed. Then the spikes are destroyed, the cells that are sick with the spikes are destroyed, and then it's all cleaned up. The only thing left is the memory of how to make the antibodies. And then we've already talked about the scientific community is in a conspiracy with Bill Gates to deceive the world and take over the planet. I have a lot of thoughts about the Illuminati and the New World Order. I believe in that stuff. That is real. This is not that. This is not. I am certain. I will speak to you and tell you that God has told me that this vaccine is from Him. This is His vaccine. Okay, and I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the vaccine. The Lord told me to get it. I'm not telling you to get it because there might be something that the Lord is telling you. I encourage you to pray about it. But I feel like this vaccine is from God. And I believe in the Illuminati and the New World Order, and I know what they want to do. I know they want to do depopulation and stuff. This isn't it. They couldn't get away with it. I have lots of reasons why I believe that. I won't go into them now for the sake of time. And then vaccine questions, okay? Here's some legitimate questions about the vaccine that actually I don't think even the scientific community is certain of. And that's number 1, how long does immunity last? Well, we don't know because we've just started vaccinating people a couple of months ago. So we don't know how long those antibodies last. Number two, how effective is the vaccine against the new strains of the virus? We've already seen that some of these strains can defeat the vaccine. Some. Okay, but we're talking about matter of degree. That means if the virus is 95% effective against one strain of the virus and 70% effective of another strain of the virus, like the Brazilian variant or whatever it's called, P1, or I can't remember what they're naming it now. I don't know if they've officially come up with a naming convention. That the vaccine is less effective. It's only 70% effective. But then you also need to realize if you get COVID that it's going to be less. It's going to be a lot easier for your body to handle COVID if you get COVID. The virus is called SARS-CoV-2 and the disease is called COVID. That's the pneumonia. So what adverse side effects does the vaccine pose to people? I have no idea. I will not comment on that question because I don't know. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, had a couple of laughs, learned something, and I encourage you to pray about this vaccine, about whether or not the Lord wants you to get it. I have prayed about it and I feel like the Lord wants me to get it. I hope this clarifies a little bit of how it works and how it doesn't work. And God bless you guys. And yeah, may the Lord just give us all wisdom and just help us in Jesus' name just to completely eliminate this virus from the face of the earth and just let the gospel go forth and let people hang out and worship and preach the gospel to each other. In Jesus' name, I just bless you. In Jesus' name, amen.